Hello and welcome. This is Captain Aquarius coming to you doing business again as Dan First on June the 22nd of 2017 from the train station at Antiquaria de Santa Ana between Madrid and Granada, Spain, to bring you this video about the next lunation of this year, the black moon that is coming on June the 24th. Before we begin this subject, however, I would like to say thank you briefly to those of you who took advantage of the offer that I made days ago in making my first astrocartography book, Finding Your Best Places, available free on Kindle for June 20th and 22nd. Thanks to you, the book is now at #1 on the Amazon bestseller list in the categories of metaphysics under philosophy and also metaphysical phenomena under religion and spirituality. As you know, if you have been following these videos at all, then you are aware that I am coming now close to the end of the journey that I have been on since November of last year to do book signings and astrology readings in relation to my second astrocartography book, Maps of Power, which you see here. The prognosis from here on is that I will be in Spain, passing through the United States again, perhaps in Mexico or Guatemala, before I come back to Peru in the middle of August in time for one of the major astral events of the year. That is the eclipse that is coming on August 21st. More about this in a little while. First, we are going to look at the chart for the black moon that is coming on June 24th. I have chosen here again, as before, this design, which is granted less aesthetically pleasing than the alternative design, which shows all of the astrology houses of the chart as equal in size at 30 degrees each. This one shows the actual dimensions of the houses. This is called a European hub traditional format. And the advantage of it is that it shows the actual angles of relationship of the planets much more easily than the alternative version would. For example, one aspect that we'll talk about, the receding for now square between Chiron the healer in the 10th house and Saturn in the lower area of the 6th house. This is obviously discernible as a 90-degree square angle. Another one is the square between Jupiter, whom you see near the bottom center of the chart in the 4th house, and also Mars, who is at the bottom of the planets that you see there in the 12th house. Other angles of relationship are obvious too, and we will talk about these as we go along. The distinguishing features of the chart are clearly that there is such a concentration of energy in the 12th house of this chart, which was cast actually for Moscow, Russia at 5 a.m. on June the 24th. Why Moscow, Russia? Well, good heavens. If Moscow, Russia, and Vladimir Putin in particular are not worthy of very extreme attention right now, as the United States does what it can to blame all of its mistakes and its corruption on the Russians instead of seeing clearly what it has done to compromise itself, then there is little point. You may as well go watch another video instead of this one. But if we are agreed that it is important now for us to understand what is going on in Russia and what Russia's choices are likely to be, then it is useful to focus on a chart cast for this location, especially as you see Uranus, the revolutionary, the bringer of change, near the top center of the chart. Now, to talk about the conditions that are in effect, you know, if you have followed any of the other videos in this series, that the ongoing square, the 90-degree angle between Chiron, the wounded healer in Pisces and the 10th house, and Saturn, the teacher, the karmic reaper and so on there in Sagittarius in the 6th house has been an ongoing condition which has been at high intensity in recent months, but is now receding in its force because you can see that Saturn is moving backwards, retrograde from that little R symbol that you see next to the 52-minute note in the position of Saturn. That means that there is now what astrologers call an orb of 5 degrees from these two planets being in an exact 90-degree alignment. Saturn will continue to move backward until August, significantly enough, a month when much is happening, and then he will go direct and he will come back into that 90-degree square with Chiron in January of next year. So this is one important aspect that we have commented on before and which deserves another look. As it is becoming less intense now, it is likely, therefore, that the focus that we have had in recent months on wounding, on the wounding of others, on the addressing of our own wounds, whatever they are, on the positive force of medicine used in different ways for the benefit of other people, the negative features of our own woundedness, our victimhood, our weenie behavior, energy vampire behavior on the part of many people, which has been so much in effect in recent months, is likely to recede at least for a while. The other major aspect that we have looked at, as you well remember, involves also Saturn, the pivotal player here, located again at the bottom of the 6th house, because he is, in addition to being the principle of limitation, of effort, concentration, discipline, hard work, conservatism at the best and at his worst, he's the guy in your meeting who says, we've never done it this way before. And so when his position is afflicted, as it is here in this relationship with Chiron, he is likely to be fixated on hanging on to old things, even if they are old things that do not work. However, in this alignment, he is also in a tremendous angle of relationship to two other points in the chart. You know about these. The Moon's node over there in the 3rd house, that horseshoe that you see here that represents relationships with groups of people, and this is actually the gathering, strengthening, cohering force in our relationships in the 3rd house of communications, means that this is a marvelous time for communications for the purpose of resolving things that have communal import, and which indeed can be done not only for the benefit of communities, but by people who are acting in a co-creative communal manner rather than only as individuals. These 2 points in their relationship of roughly 120 degrees are in another relationship with Uranus the revolutionary up at the top center of the chart in the 11th house. And so this triangle, which has been in effect now for several weeks, is now beginning to dissolve in its force, you see, because the Moon's node always moves to the left, going counterclockwise in the chart. So in the time ahead, it will go from 24, 23, 22, and so on, and will tend to be out of orb with the other planets, especially as Uranus at the top center of the chart moves ahead to 28, 29 degrees of Aries, and so on. But this aspect is still powerfully in effect, and it means that we are in a condition of harmony, the possibility of stability, the possibility of the use of creative genius and collective co-intention for the purpose of making things better here. Notice that Uranus and the planet Venus, too, are both located in the enormous 11th house of this chart, the house of friendship and community. Interestingly enough, there have been a number of things that have shown us recently, you see, what the hidden dynamic is of cohesion. the possibility of resolving conflict. And it's not just the fact that in the British election, the government wound up being a hung parliament in which it is unclear really who is going to exercise leadership even in the near future, much less beyond. And the candidate that you see here, the famous Lord Buckethead, is probably as legitimate a contender as anyone else. He seems to be the George Carlin figure in this election, dressed in the manner of Darth Vader, except that he's got, as you can see, a 2 feet tall black bucket on his head. The point here, in addition to all the comedy and the fact that we are in what is basically a node of stability rather than chaos, is that this is a time that does not favor people for the purpose of beating everybody else. It does not favor conflict. It does not favor competition. And yes, the example of the French election may seem to be a notable exception to this, but look what happened there. The moribund parties that were not in a position really to propose anything effective to the French voters withered on the vine. And the result was that Emmanuel Macron, the new president, and his party ran slates of candidates and won an impressive majority in the legislative election. This is an example of how communal action, even undertaken for the short term on short notice, can do things that are much more effective than anything that can be done by hidebound and corrupt organizations, for example, the United States Democratic Party. So, we are in a position that the Portal 2012 website, which is the intelligence hub for the victory of the light, calls an interval of metastability, in which the fundamental rhythm and flavor and theme of the time is coalescence. It is coming to agreement on things. Naturally, there are always going to be people who want to fly against this fundamental trend, but it remains in effect now, really for the next 2 months, gradually fading away. And there are other things that complement the trend. Notice that Pluto at 18 degrees of Capricorn in the 6th house of health is in a very close 120-degree trine relationship with Venus up there in the 11th house in the sign of Taurus. This means that the Plutonian theme of death and regeneration, of being able to retire and let go of things that are no longer relevant and bring in the new things to replace them, is in relationship with Venus at her most powerful as the force of attraction. Venus looks at what she wants, she says, "Come here, I want you," and it comes because she has a clear, single-minded focus on what she intends, and she has no doubt whatsoever that she deserves it. This a clear antidote to the kind of victim behavior that we have seen manifesting during the Chiron-Saturn square. Let's look ahead a little bit to the eclipse coming on August the 21st. We can say that the time between now, that is the black moon of June 24th and the black moon of August 21st, is a 2-month interval in which all of the lunations that we see here, the full moon followed by the black moon in July, the full moon in August followed by the eclipse black moon on August 21st, are notable and worthy of our attention. The August 21st eclipse, as you know, has already begun to attract considerable attention. People are speculating about whether this extremely rare eclipse is going to manifest as something in the nature of a once-in-a-lifetime event. A total solar eclipse is not an extremely rare event. There's another one coming on in 2019, another one in 2020. What is unusual about this one, however, and it is worthy of note, is that the path of totality of the eclipse crosses the continental United States completely. This is the first time that this has happened since 1918. And there's going to be another one of these coming in 2024. So naturally, these are drawing considerable attention from people who wonder, is this the coming of the rapture? Is this the time when devout Christian people will rise off the earth and out of their clothes up in the sky to meet Jesus in the air? And all of them are going to look down through the clouds and see God torch the earth, destroy it, incinerate this beautiful planet and all the living things on it. There is no limit to the nonsense that people will believe, and they will attach to what is in fact an extremely important event for the transformation of consciousness. Another one naturally that is going to be identified here is the collapse of the economy. They have been predicting this for years now, and obviously the economy is in transmutation. It must be. But those who are seeing necessary change within metaphors of collapse are only acting as doom pimps, playing the fear card again, attempting to control people through fear, which will have the effect of dividing and isolating when the thing that will help us the most, the thing that we need, the thing that we are determined to do, is to come into cohesion with each other in a spirit of love, because fear divides, love unites. Fear weakens, love empowers, and that is why this is the best way to approach the magnificent black moon that is coming in August at the time of this eclipse. You can see in the chart here, and there will be ample time to comment on it as we go along, but you notice the tremendous combination of planets there in the sign of Libra in this chart, or I'm sorry, in the sign of Leo in this chart, and that Uranus in the sign of Aries is at a wonderful 120-degree trine with the sun and the moon and the other planets here. The impact of this, the theme and the implication of it, is that there is a time of tremendous new insight, inspiration, lightning flashes of understanding, of a kind of universal satori, in which human beings are able suddenly to see the true nature of things, the true nature of their own power to achieve transformation. So they no longer have to follow leaders. They no longer have to be deceived and manipulated by lies and eye candy and other kinds of toys and propaganda. The implications of this eclipse coming in August are absolutely enormous, and it is essential that we understand what is going on here and we redirect our focus to the most positive possibilities here. What is most likely is that there is going to be an alignment between human consciousness and the cosmic consciousness, and an exchange of energy going on between the two, so that the collective human mind has an opportunity to awaken and transform. That is what is really going on. So if anyone asks you, what are we supposed to do? The best thing to do really is to send them to the 1.5-minute video by Terence McKenna. You can see it on YouTube. It's called Worry is Preposterous. And it is about really the fact that what we need to do is get ourselves out of anxiety, understand how powerful we are as individuals, and how more magnificently powerful we are as collectives who are blending our energies in the ways that we agreed to do long ago before we came here. Between now and August, it is time to do it. Thank you. Talk to you another time.